Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our book study. It's really good to see you today. And we're continuing with our study of this amazing master teacher, I'll call him. It doesn't say that anywhere, but he definitely is a master teacher. And these discourses, in my mind, like this group that we're looking at today, it looks like it feels a little bit like we're at university, having a university experience with these some of the way it's laid out for us. And it is my joy and honor to have Jenny Beal back today. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Bill. Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you and also, Jenny and Susan and Jenny Sheehan and others are very helpful in, picking up a spot when someone has an unexpected departure or something happens and Joel couldn't be here last time because he was, having flood problems in California, didn't have a good internet. And so thank you guys for being available to support the co-hosting element. I really appreciate it. And I know everyone benefits. So thank you for that. And before we get started, I want to mention to everyone that we have the conference coming up this weekend. Actually, it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if someone can pick up a link for the conference and put it in the chat, I would appreciate it. And we'll do it once now, we'll do it at the end. The Many Paths, One Self Conference is a free live conference Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm just going to share my screen real quick so you can see who's going to be there. This is our lineup for the conference. If you would like to join us, these are the teachers. We're going from the West Coast of the United States to the East Coast and in between, and we're going to Israel, Australia, Europe, Italy, UK, India. I forget where Rodrigo is. I think he's in South America, but we're really covering the globe. And Sweet, I think she's Australia, but we're really covering. Ira is Australia. We have Sheikh is in I think Amsterdam, somewhere in that part of the world. So we're really covering the globe with this group of teachers. So don't miss this opportunity to hear. Oh, in Mexico, James Twyman is in Mexico. So this is our seventh conference. If you are interested in joining with us, the link will be put in the chat. It's an amazing weekend. It goes from 9 a.m. to 5 or 6, sometimes 7 p.m. Eastern, and it ends on Sunday around 2 o'clock p.m. So join us if you have any free time. And in the registration, you'll find a schedule where if you only have a limited amount of time, pick a teacher presentation that fits your schedule and join us over there. We'd be glad to have you. And that's it. That's my commercial for the day. And I'll see you on Friday if you join us there. And let's get started with this set of discourses. I hope you all don't mind giving that commercial break for the conference. So we're looking at 80 or 81, right? 80?
81 to 90.
81 blew my mind a little bit.
Yes, well, there are several of these which really do need quite a lot of unpicking, I think, and 81 is one of them. So what he's really saying here is, if you ask yourself, what is it that is aware of my experience, then you have to answer, it's me. So we can all agree that I am that, whatever it might be. We don't need to give it a name, which is aware of my experience. And then Atmananda is going on from there, and he's categorizing experience into two types: feelings and thoughts. And he includes perceptions together with thoughts, because both occur in the mind. So he says, you are the background of all your emotions and passions. Well, we know that. I'm aware of my experience. Emotions and passions are part of my experience. And he says, likewise, knowing is the background of all thoughts. So we know our thoughts. I am that which knows my thoughts. And he goes on, knowing and feeling in their secondary senses may have an object, but in their correct sense, which is, he really means their more general sense, their most general sense, they can have no object at all. So he's saying that knowing and feeling can have specific objects, like I feel angry. I know my thought of an apple, but in a general sense, knowing and feeling don't have any particular object. They're just the background of all that is known and felt. And he concludes this with, similarly, all objects are one when viewed as existence. And he's now going one step further and saying that since I am pure feeling and also I'm pure knowing, then I is the common denominator of that. So then feeling and knowing must be one, must be the I principle. So the background of all objects of feeling and knowing must be the same. And that's what we call existence, or being is another word for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And the basic understanding that he's offering from the very beginning of that discourse, and what you said, is that I, me, am aware of this experience, and that's all the proof we need, is that if you are aware of this experience, that's the me that we're talking about.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you're the me, if you're aware of this experience, you are the one that's aware of these feelings, these thoughts, these perceptions, and you can kind of rest right there as a primary starting point, and your experiences somehow they're seen differently.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing.
Mm.
And the way he puts it, that feelings equal experience, knowing equals thoughts, and both of those are the absolute.
Yes. Yes.
So my thoughts and my feelings are both, and my experience are all the absolute having the experience.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's God having the experience, and this is where it gets really, people go, when you say it's God having these experiences, it's God having these thoughts, it's God having these feelings, people sort of cringe a little bit sometimes.
Yes, yes. So you can use I instead of God. It's so common for people to objectify themselves, to make themselves into an object, or to see themselves as an object. And so what he's doing here is he's collapsing the object and the subject.
Yeah.
So Amy has said, well, I'm not sure what he means by feeling. He means things, he uses the word rasa, and rasa is pure feeling. It's often used as a way of describing Indian drama. So a drama, each drama that you watch might have a different feeling, might produce in you a different feeling. So some dramas might make you feel frightened. Some might make you feel love and warmth and things like that. So all of those are feelings, and that's really what he's talking about there. So you can feel angry, you can feel love, you can feel sad. You can laugh. Comedy is another aspect of rasa. So some dramas are comedies. Anything, any feeling that it produces.
Isn't that a secondary background though? It's not the primary background.
It's not the primary background. It's exactly. So just as a thought will relate to ultimately to physical objects usually, unless it's a mathematical thought, in which case it relates to mathematical objects, but usually it's physical objects. So a feeling will be a particular type of feeling, but feeling in its essence is one. He's saying that feeling is an aspect, in other words, of I. It's one way in which I manifest, the same way as knowing or thought, thinking is one way in which I manifest, and perceiving is one way in which I manifest.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The distinction is that you're aware of the background, that secondary background of experience, because you're as the primary I principle, you're unchanged by whatever happens in experience.
Yes, exactly. So rasa, feeling, includes every possible type of feeling. It is infinite types of feelings.
Right. Okay. Cool. In this, at the second paragraph of Discourse 82, it starts with the natural effortlessness of knowing and the fact that it is always present. Clearly prove it to be really the nature of the self. I like the way that sounds when it rolls, when it comes through the thought, the natural effortlessness of knowing.
Yes, I mean, what he really means experiencing by knowing here, because he's including experiencing, doing, perceiving, thinking, and feeling. So he starts by saying, well, if knowing was a function at the same level as doing, perceiving, thinking, and feeling, that wouldn't make sense, because it's more effortless than any of those. So he's really producing an argument, a justification for saying knowing is at a higher level than all of those, because it's common to all of those, and also because it's effortless.
Right. Yeah. And you see why I mentioned that. I mean, what you just described and so eloquently explained is this feels like college level stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Yes.
He says in the very last sentence on that discourse, to think deeply means to bring in the higher reason.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Higher reasoning is he defines it as really contemplating what we are, the essential nature of what we are, the essential nature of our experience of the universe equally. So that requires thinking deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing that a lot more since I went to that retreat in Canada, and I'd started doing those self-inquiries. And, 25 hours of asking someone or having someone ask you, tell me who you are. It really causes you to pause and investigate who you are. Am I Bill, or am I that which is aware of Bill's experience? It gives you that deeper investigation.
I'm baffled as to why it takes 25 hours, but that's I
Well,
guess another
no,
story.
no, it's very short. It was 25 hours. It was a 3-day intensive where you sit in dyads with another person across from you, and you're looking in each other's eyes, and you're asking for 20 minutes, or actually it's a 40-minute session, and you're saying, tell me who you are. And you're then just, the person doesn't say another word, and the person who's being asked reports what is being seen, just reporting. There's a sensation in my foot. There's a thought that I hate my this. There's a thought that I love my this. It's just a whole self-inquiry experience. It lasts 25 hours. I mean, it is daunting. Yeah, I almost wanted to, when I saw the schedule, I almost wanted to turn around and drive home. It was hard work. Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
But it had a great payoff. I'm going back in July. Anyway, that's another story. I do crazy stuff sometimes. Yeah. Okay. 83. Is there any
Okay.
relationship between body and consciousness?
So he's now applying the principles we've just discussed to the body. And I know the body, I feel the body, knowing and feeling are one. The body's just an object of feeling and knowing, and its reality is myself, consciousness. So that's really what he's saying.
Well, it's consciousness. It's consciousness, and yet it's aware of itself as an object.
Well, the body isn't aware of itself.
No, consciousness is aware of itself.
Consciousness is aware of its experience, and part of its experience is a body.
Okay, so you wouldn't say it was aware of itself. You're saying that consciousness is aware of the experience as a body.
Yes, no, I wouldn't say that consciousness is aware of itself as a body. No, I would say consciousness is aware of itself, full stop. Or consciousness is aware of its experience, and part of its experience is a body.
Yeah, that was awesome. Full stop. Period. Thank you. You're so concise. Yeah. What else? So when I read this discourse, I asked Lisa, I said, hey, babe, answer this question for me. Where are you reading? I'm not going to tell you where I'm reading right now. I'm just going to ask you one question. Is there any relationship between body and consciousness? She said, we play these games, She said, they're the same. They're not the same, but they are the same. They come from, they have the consciousness and the body are the same. Yes.
Yes, the body is a superimposition by mind onto the experience of consciousness, if we want to be absolutely accurate.
Okay. Anyway, it was a fun guessing game. 84, realization. These are deep questions, it seems like.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, the point here is that realization brings with it the recognition that you have always been free. You have always been unlimited. Nothing changes on realization. So for that reason, it's not an event that can occur in time. So he says, realization consists in becoming deeply aware of the fact that you have never been in bondage. To the question, when shall one realize, the answer can only be when the when dies. And that follows logically from what I've just said. It's not an event that can occur in time. When is in time, so it's only when the when dies that realization has a chance of happening.
Right. And you could also say from that first sentence that the fact that you have never been in bondage is really identifying that you've never been this. You've never been the body mind.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Sandra, hi Sandra, she said, doesn't this discourse state that the body is consciousness?
No, only in the sense that everything is made out of consciousness.
Well, when it says, when examined in the right perspective, is found, talking about the body, since the body, when examined in the right perspective, is found to be consciousness itself. How is that?
Yes, because the superimposition is just an illusion. There is no body, in other words, and that's what he's meaning by the right perspective. If you say consciousness and the body are the same thing, then you get into a problem, because the body is limited and consciousness is unlimited.
Right.
So they can't be the same.
Yeah.
So he's saying, get it in the right perspective. In other words, remove the superimposition, which is what the mind has done. It's separated out a little bit of experience and said, this is body. It divides experience into, that's what mind does. It divides experience into objects. But those objects have no inherent reality. Their reality is sometimes described as a dependent reality, and it's dependent on mind, and on a limited mind at that.
It's I mean, that's I took the same bait, Sandra, when I read that. So it's just not reading with that specific clarity. And if you don't use the word in the right, the phrase in the right perspective, you miss the point.
It's tricky reading Atmananda for exactly that reason, that Indian logic is not the same as Western logic. So when we say it is, when we're equating two things, then we mean that they are identical. We don't mean that one includes the other or one is a modification of the other.
Yeah. Well, I like his logic and his reason. His teaching is I mean, sometimes it gets really deep and I'm swimming in the deep end. But mostly he makes it really clear, as we'll see further on.
Yes.
What else do you see in 84 realization?
Well, really, the rest of that argument is that when you say, I experience an object, all you actually experience is your own projection of objects. In other words, just as I said, a superimposition onto raw experience. And that's all the mind can do. The thing in itself is beyond the senses and beyond the mind. So he says, in your perceptions, you only see form, hear sound, and so on. Form, sound by themselves do not prove or belong to any object. Each only proves and belongs to the particular sense organ concerned. And then he goes on, so every perception, concept, etc., proves and belongs to only that thing in itself which is beyond the senses and mind. That is to say, it is the only reality behind all manifestations. So, in other words, the thing in itself is always beyond the senses and minds, and you can have two different views of that. You can say that it's only made out of mind stuff, or you can say it's made out of something else, but ultimately everything is made out of consciousness. Everything comes together in consciousness, and that's really proved by the interaction of your experience, your mental experience of an object and the thing in itself, if indeed it is separate from your mental experience of it.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Deep end. Okay. Jenny Sheehan has her hand up. Would you like to add something, Jenny? Please come on.
Thank you. Really quick, the second to last paragraph, a question about clarification. You can never have more than one perception at a time. Therefore, la da 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 da. It's indeed a real impossibility. And but I can be listening to music and touching a pillow, and it does seem to be perceptions per se can be happening more at a time. So is it perhaps the word experience that you can never have more than one experience at a time, the totality of thoughts and feelings and perceptions? I was just that paragraph, if you guys could explain.
Yes, I mean, he's when he's using the word perception, he's meaning all of our different perceptions, and it's really only mind that divides perceptions into music and the feeling of touching the cat or whatever it is that you're touching. And that's again, that's artificial. That's a construct of mind, that our experience is one.
Wow. Wow. That's profound, because that's prior to a description, prior to the naming of the experience. So
yes.
It's perception as a secondary witness, almost.
Yes, that mind, I mean, it's always said that mind applies name and form, but actually before it even does that, it applies channel through which it has received the experience. So it first divides things into channels. So the channel of seeing, the channel of hearing, the channel of touching, channel of smelling, and so on.
So is that clear as mud, Jenny? I mean, I don't mean that literally, but it's that definitely is deep end thoughts and
It's really
pointing.
useful to actually experiment with things like that, where you've got multiple perceptions. You know, often in yoga meditations, you start with your eyes closed and things, but when you've done that for a while, then try opening your eyes, and then you're listening and you're seeing at the same time. Try bringing in all, and try touching also. Try bringing in all the senses, and then seeing that the raw experience is one. And it's a really useful thing to experiment with.
That sounds really cool. That sounds like a good lesson. Yes. Thank you, Jenny. All right. So 74 years ago from now, this next discourse was written, Duality and Advaitic Experience. You want to explore the question?
Yes, this is so the question says, is it not in duality that the Advaitic truth is experienced when the teacher expounds the Advaitic truth to the disciple, and when the disciple understands it? Is there not duality? How then can it be said that the Advaitic truth transcends all duality? So basically he's pointing out that the teacher is of necessity using language which is dualistic to expound the truth. And since he, the disciple, understands it, then the truth itself must be dualistic. But there's a fallacy here. The language is dualistic, and taken literally, the meaning would be dualistic. But when the disciple has become familiar with the idea of looking where the teacher is pointing, then he's taken to the truth. And that's basically what Atmananda is saying. He's saying if you direct attention to the language part, the idea meant to be conveyed will certainly be missed. Therefore, in order to understand the idea, you have to direct attention to the idea and not to the language used. And he then talks about a central idea, and then you have to go beyond the central idea. And he says, when you understand the truth, you stand as the truth. And and this relates to what Susan and I were talking about before we started this lovely podcast with Billy Doyle. So this is what Atmananda says. It says, here you have been following in the footsteps of the teacher who is rising from the language to ideas, from several ideas to the central idea, and from the central idea to the truth. The truth, as is shown above, transcends the realm of ideas and mind. The personal element ceases here and does not exist in the beyond. So when the teacher was standing as the truth and the disciple was also standing as the truth, only the impersonal was there, as truth is impersonal. There's no duality there. And that was really what was happening on that podcast. I would ask Billy a question. Susan was saying, oh, it takes such a long time before he says anything. And that's right, because the question and the answer sort of hang in the air. The question goes beyond. His understanding goes beyond the question, and my understanding goes beyond the answer. So you've got these lovely long pauses, which were really beautiful.
Nice. That is so funny. Yeah, and it is the way we work. You know, we're looking for. There's this, especially in radio, or even right here doing this experience. If we stop talking, everybody is sitting there going, okay, well, somebody say something, right? Because the space of nothing happening is not familiar.
It's so lovely to be with people who are happy, not to feel, who don't feel a need to fill the gap, who are just happy to sit there in silence, not in a contrived silence, not in a sort of agreed silence, but just in a natural silence. It's so beautiful. And it's one of the things that worries me a lot about social media now, that people go from one thing to one thing to one thing to one thing, swipe, 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 swipe on their phone. They never let go of their phones. And it worries me, because it's this space of contemplation, which is where you discover what you are and what the universe is.
Hey, Jenny, would you just pour some of that on me, please? Here, everyone, we'll pour it on all of us. We all need a little douse of that. No, it's a lovely statement that you just say, and it feels right. It feels right to, to nourish the beingness with quiet presence.
Yes.
Uncontrived, just stillness and presence, and this is what I think is, effortless being and presence, not and letting things be messy a little bit too. If the mind would say, oh, that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Let it not fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Where else do you want to look on this 85? Is there something else that stands out?
Oh, yes. I mean, the snake and the rope, that's the famous one. So we should look at that. It says, but this knowledge by itself does not complete your liberation. Take, for example, the illusion of a serpent in a rope. Here, this is a serpent is illusion, and this is a rope is the reality. If nothing of the rope is seen, no superimposition is possible. It's only on a partial knowledge of the rope that the superimposition takes place. It's the thisness or the existence aspect of the rope that is common to both the reality and the illusion. It's upon this that the serpent is superimposed. And then he goes on, so if by some process you understand that it is not a serpent, the serpent illusion vanishes and the thisness alone remains. But the likelihood of your superimposing other things upon this, like a stick or a crack or a shadow, still remains. If you want to avoid every possibility of any further superimposition, you must necessarily bring in clear light and see the rope in its real nature. So it's not enough to see the snake, you have to see the rope as well, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which really means he's talking about abiding as consciousness.
It's the same thing that we were talking about, the quiet.
Yeah.
Needing noise or sound or something being said, and yet abiding in the stillness is the reality, and all of those other things are also, they're arising out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to look at 80. Oh, do we have a hand up? Susan Wright has a hand up. Hi, Susan.
Yeah. Hi, Bill. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Thank you, because I wanted to kind of get it in while we're talking of these sections of 85 and 86. So this idea, he's bringing in he's he's putting in consciousness, equating, maybe not, equating consciousness and happiness. And then when we go into 86, consciousness and peace. And something in that threw me a little bit. And I tried to think about why it threw me. And I guess I was interpreting, or I think about consciousness as more of the impersonal, not in a bad way, but it's just that when he brings in the terms happiness and peace, that's really potentially our imposition of our mind saying, oh, it's happy, I'm peaceful. But it's not really that, is it?
No,
it to me when he
isn't.
did that.
I know. It's we don't have a separate word. That's really the problem for the happiness or the peace attribute of reality. So, you know, we've got the word consciousness for the perceiving aspect of reality, and we use the word peace or happiness for the happy aspect of reality, and similarly beauty. But yes, we tend to say, I am happy. But the real happiness is beyond the personal I, beyond any personal I. And it's a bit like, you know, if you fall in love and you're walking with the person you love down the street, and everything feels like it's filled with love, pervaded by love. The buildings, all the shops, all the people, everything is love. It feels that way, and it's that's really what he's referring to.
It's more like a rightness or a completeness.
Absolutely. Well, yes, absence of lack is another way of putting it. But again, one's looking at it from a personal point of view. If you say it's absence of lack, whereas it's a natural, ever present. I think that's the important thing. Ever present attributes. It never goes away.
That's right.
That consciousness, that happiness, that love, that consciousness, it never goes away.
Whatever that is, whatever the imprecise word is that we're trying to attach to it. The idea is more, it's the consistency of it, right? I think that's what you're trying to. Okay, yeah.
And but the unlimitedness of it, I think, also very, very important. Yes. It's not I am happy, he is sad. There's nothing of that. There's nothing of that in it, you know.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Yeah, that does help. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, 86. Knowing the sat aspect alone does not make liberation complete.
And that's really what he was saying in the previous one, in fact, isn't it? He says, going subjectively beyond the body and mind, you know that you are the unqualified I. But this knowledge of the sat aspect alone does not make your experience complete, so long as you don't understand the other two positive characteristics, consciousness and peace. There's every possibility of your superimposing something else upon this unknown, which is, it's very similar to what he was saying before about superimposing something else onto the rope, and that happens in some forms of the, well, particularly Neo-Advaita. It can be very nihilistic. And the reason it's nihilistic is because the the consciousness and the peace aspects are not dealt with in it. There's just the reality. There's certainly no peace aspect. There's no happiness aspect. There's no beauty aspect. It's and some of the people who have gone by that route have ended up committing suicide, in fact.
So would you say that it's more of a mental concept instead of having an experiential direct experience?
I think it can be a direct experience, but I think the experience is not a liberating one. So it's a partial glimpse, in other words. It's I think the missing bit, I mean, I would describe the missing bit as more the experience of unlimitedness that is missing, the experience of oneness that is missing. I mean, he calls it consciousness and peace. But that's I've observed is what happens, that people very easily can see, yeah, I'm not just this body, not just this mind. There is something that is I that never changes, and I can rest as that. I can be as that. And then as soon as you say, well, that I was never born and never dies, I think, oh, I don't think so. And that's where the issue, I think, arises.
So that would be reduced. That would limit absolute knowing.
Yeah.
Because he says in that the last two paragraphs, but of 86, if you definitely know in clear light that it is only a rope, there is no possibility of your mistaking it any further. Therefore, to make your liberation complete, or your awakening complete and unmistakable, you must understand the I to be pure consciousness, the object being only its expression, and both of them being absolute peace. So it's an absolute knowing of the I principle as you.
Yes. Yeah.
Not the body personal you, but as what you implies.
And pure consciousness. So not a consciousness that relates to a separate being. Pure consciousness. In other words, pure unlimited consciousness. That's what, when he's using pure consciousness, that's what he's referring to. Not just my consciousness.
Right. Yeah. But when you say you are only pure consciousness.
Yes. Everything living, everything not living.
Yes.
All that is pure consciousness.
We want to be precise. Yeah, because and I think it's important to be precise. Yeah. Actually, thank you for being so clear in these matters. Okay, so if we turn the page to 52, and we're looking at the top of the page, we're at the last three paragraphs of 87. Oh, so it is. Oh no, there's a question. It's 87 that starts on 51. I'm sorry. How can prayer to a personal God lead to fulfillment? Oh yeah, this was a great question.
Yes, it was interesting. It's interesting what he says. I mean, he explains that people pray to God to get their desires fulfilled, and that's typically why people pray. You know, you might pray for a sick relative, or something like that. And he says, though ignorant of the immense powers and potentiality of his own mind, he unconsciously releases in this way all the powers that lie dormant in him towards the creation of the Godhead he has conceived. Thus, the very powers of the devotee himself, in the name and form of the God he has conceived, come back and take effect in the fulfillment of his own prayers. So in other words, sometimes prayers will get answered, prayers that, praying for something to happen, for something to change, to fulfill a desire, and sometimes they will happen for exactly that reason. But he says the devotee takes it all meekly, attributing it to the grace of God, so on. And that, yes, it gets fulfillment of desires, or it might get fulfillment of desires, but it's not going to get truth. That's what he goes on to, because firstly, you're praying to something that you conceive as being larger than yourself. And secondly, because the desire for objects is not going to lead to happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he summarizes that in the last paragraph. He says, he who wants to get to the truth does not crave for the fulfillment of individual desires, for he is concerned with spiritual values alone. Proceeding that way, he ultimately comes back to his own self and realizes God as his own self.
Yeah, that's our stop. I'm getting off right here. That's the stop right there. That's where I'm going. I mean, that's not where I'm going. That's the destination.
Yes.
That we all get back to when we hear that phrase, chop wood, carry water. After awakening, you do the same thing. You just don't know yourself as the person anymore. You include the person, you don't exclude it.
Yeah.
And life gets, in my experience, life just is easier.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's see. Do we have any questions? Oh, you can't get off here. You never got on. Yeah, right. Thank you, Paul. That's true.
That's good. Yeah.
Funny. I want to go back to this statement here of how things come back and take effect, because this is really like the Aladdin's lamp. Consciousness will respond to the thing that we don't want, that's imposed with a lot of energy on it and we're afraid of, and that's like sending in a transmitter out to consciousness saying, give me this energy back in some kind of form. and sometimes you get the very thing that you don't want because you have such a high intensity of energy about it. Yeah. Says 88 is God is eternal. What do you have on this one, Jenny?
Yes. Actually, I think maybe I'll just explain something because it may not be obvious to everyone. He talks about the efficient cause and the material cause, distinct and separate from each other, and he's referring to Aristotle's theory about causes. And Aristotle, in fact, postulated that there are 4 causes for all objects or for all events. There's a material cause, and that's that out of which it is made. So, for example, if you take a gold ring, then the ring is made out of gold, and gold is the material cause for the ring. Then there's the efficient cause, that's the second one, And that's the interaction that gave rise to the object. And in that case, there was a goldsmith who made the ring. And so there was the interaction of the goldsmith and the gold that was the efficient cause of the ring. And then there's the formal cause, and that's the form or the essence of the ring, and that's the ring shape. And then he has the final cause, which is the end or goal of the object, or what the object is useful for. And obviously gold rings are useful for getting married, so that's the final cause in that particular example. That's just a trivial example. So bearing that in mind, this is what Atmananda says. He says, there can never be other eternals because there is no agency to distinguish them. Hence, there can be only one eternal, and that is God. Conceding God as eternal, it has to be admitted that God created this universe, including time and space. How and from what? Taking God as the creator, there must be two causes for creation, the efficient cause and the material cause, distinct and separate from each other. But of course, that's not really possible, so he says, but there is none other than God to afford material for these two causes. So still conceding that God created the world out of himself, it has to be admitted that he has further to divide himself into two distinct and separate parts to provide two causes for creation. Such a division makes him finite, and at once he loses his godhood and infinitude. So the world has never been created, in fact.
Yes.
So that's his logical argument. So it's based on the theory of Aristotle, basically.
Right. Okay. And when you're talking about creation, and then prior to creation, the absolute that we speak of with these teachings is prior to creation. It's the absolute pure presence, consciousness.
It's reality. It's the ultimate reality of everything. So there can't be anything prior to it because it always is. There's
Right.
It's outside of space and time. Space and time, like Don Hoffman says, are not primary.
Yeah, and creation isn't either.
For the if creation was primary, then space and time would have to be primary.
Right. Right.
Because creation happens in time, can only happen in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an important distinction when to contemplate or to and to resolve. Because you get creation and you think, well, I was created in the image of God, and that seems to be a starting point. It's only a starting point for time and space.
Yeah.
William have
yes, he
has
does
his hand up. Hey,
yeah.
William, did you have something to add? There you are. Oh,
turn it. Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, this reminded me of the meeting, the mythology of Moses meeting the burning bush, where it's usually translated in English, who shall I say sent me? The answer comes, I am that I am.
Yep.
But another translation is, I will be what I will to be.
Right.
So I am that, as Nisargadatta puts it.
Yep.
There is no that, there's only the I.
Yes. Yeah.
Take the that out.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to, a little example of a mythology that expresses the same thought.
Thank you, William.
You're welcome.
All right. And then at the very end of this discourse, he says, where you said, so the world has never been created. In fact, it's the dream of being separate is just an illusion.
Yes, yes.
And then we have two more. Let's look at, or one more. One more. Repentance is no road to progress. I like this one. This is good.
It's really interesting for a policeman and a prosecutor, the way he talks, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
think of that. Wow.
He would have been. He would have been amazing to meet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. An evil deed is very often committed not because one does not know it to be evil, but because one is not able to resist the cravings of the heart. One's reason gives the right advice, but the heart's not able to follow it. Repentance is usually suggested as an atonement and as a means to prevent the repetition of the deed, but experience and logic are against this. I think that's great, and he explains when we start to repent a past evil deed, then we're essentially we're dwelling on it, and but it gives the heart some pleasure. So repentance, in a sense, means the constant repetition of the evil. Francis gives another way of looking at it, which we discussed in Perfume of Silence book study, and that it follows from the understanding that we, as separate body minds, don't choose our thoughts. So we are not guilty, and no one can be guilty. Everything that happens is an act of God. And Atmananda then goes on to take that same approach. He says, if you want to transcend the evil permanently, you have to scrupulously to forget it forever until you're able to realize that you are neither the doer nor the enjoyer, but the eternal knower.
Right. I think of repentance as a different kind of what it means. I look at repentance or repent as just turning away from what you were doing, and you're no longer that one that does that. So repentance in my mind isn't something that is where I'm reminding myself about it. I'm turning away from the old patterns.
Yeah.
And picking up an identification as a new direction. So to speak. Yeah.
Sometimes people can feel very, very stuck in something they feel guilty about in the past.
Yeah.
And it's occasionally it's something that you can make some kind of reparation in the present, but often you can't.
Right.
It's maybe something you said to someone just immediately before he died, and you wish you'd said something different immediately before he died. There's nothing you can do about that. And if it causes guilt, that's really not helpful.
So I think,
understanding that the understanding that Francis gives and Atmananda later on here, I think is very useful, that you don't choose your thoughts, you didn't choose your action.
Okay, so I'm feeling, this is just an example, I'm feeling guilty. A thought comes in, it's something I did when I was 15. I see the thought. It's guilt follows the thought. What does one do with it?
one sees that you didn't choose the thought, that there never was a separate Bill that had that thought in the first place, or did what that thought told you to do. That it was just the activity of the universe. It was part of the play of life. It was part of the drama. It just happened. There was no you that chose that.
So it's awareness that is aware of the thought. So you
God chose it. It was God's thought.
Well, awareness is God.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Another way to say it.
Yeah. So it's not something that anyone needs to do, even where he says, so if you want to transcend the evil, and as an example, permanently, you have scrupulously to forget it forever. That sounds like a doing.
It does, but he says until you're able to realize that you're neither the doer nor the enjoyer. Now that's the liberation, understanding that you're neither the doer nor the enjoyer. So the scrupulously forgetting it is a prior step to liberation.
Okay,
and
that's
then
a progressive step.
Yeah, once you know that you're neither the doer nor the enjoyer, then you will have forgotten it because it's irrelevant.
It would just pass.
Yeah.
You don't choose the thought, it just passes by like a cloud.
Yeah.
See you later, never to return or maybe if it does return, but I don't touch it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, Susan Wright.
Hi, I just want to be a little bit of a devil's advocate that explanation doesn't play too well to the one who was injured. Right. So I'm curious to know if there's and maybe Francis Lucille addresses this, or maybe further on in our readings it will, the other side, which is the part about forgiveness.
About the person who has experienced the injury.
The injury, right. So because this is from the perspective of the person who has done the injury. So in terms of repentance, right? But
it's in that same bit of Perfume of Silence, actually. It's a beautiful explanation. Maybe I'll try and look it up and find it for you. But basically, what he says is the first thing is that you understand I don't choose my thoughts. Once you've understood that, it becomes blindingly obvious that no one else chooses their thoughts either. So they are not guilty. There's not a person who is guilty. There are just things that happen. So it isn't very different from an example of an earthquake destroying your house. It's not something that's nice. You have to deal with it. So the things you have to deal with throughout life, some of them appear to be caused by a person. Some of them appear to be what the insurance companies call an act of God. But actually all of them are acts of God.
Everything's an act of God then, right? Exactly. I ask because I'm in another group where we're specifically looking at the idea of forgiveness. So I'm very interested in bringing perhaps another perspective to what we're saying. Yeah. So I'll look in the Perfume of Silence. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the forgiveness part is also a progressive idea. It's a step towards releasing the mind from a belief that it's a victim or that it's a perpetrator. It's a temporary release, similar to what Atmananda just said here. It's temporary until you can assume the position of I don't choose my thoughts. I'm what everything is an act of God. You are that act of God, and so is Hitler and Mussolini and Putin and everybody else. They're all God doing its thing.
Yeah.
Gulp. Okay. Anything else, Jenny, that we want to look at here? Any other? What a
Well,
great.
we've got 90 to cover yet.
Oh, we do. Okay, good.
Yes. So
Okay.
maybe
we
we
were.
should just look at that.
Okay. I
Yeah.
ended on 89. I thought we
Oh,
would.
it said 90 in your schedule.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
sorry. I should read my own schedule. Oh, no, it says 86 to 89.
Does it? Oh,
No, 86.
Wait, no.
That doesn't make sense.
81 to 90. Yes, you're right.
yes.
I was going by page numbers. Sorry.
All right. Okay.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at 90. We have time.
So he starts with a quotation from the Katha Upanishad. He who is chosen by the Atma itself is alone eligible for realization of the truth. And that's sometimes taken to mean that the truth is only for special people, that it's not available to everyone. But he goes on to explain that that's absolutely not the case. And he says, it means that he who is earnest about getting to Atma, the ultimate truth, gets attracted to it without anything being done by Atma itself. That is the choosing. So, and that corresponds to what's in several of the other Upanishads, which it's that its earnestness is one of the qualifications, one of the characteristics which is likely to lead you to enlightenment, to the recognition of the truth of your nature.
Isn't that interesting that it's a little bit of a paradox, because there seems to be a choosing. There seems to be a something that is initiating desire, and yet it's coming from consciousness itself.
It's there all the time. There was the Shankaracharya, Shantananda Saraswati, had a lovely way of explaining this. He said there's like a fountain of knowledge and of grace which is pouring down all the time, and you just need to be open to it. You're like a pot, and if you're upside down, then nothing can get in, and if you turn yourself up and you're open to it, then it just pours in.
Oh,
it's really
beautiful.
very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah. Very nice image that offers. Yeah. So the very last paragraph of this last discourse is, not only is the direct perception path, or the direct path, the easiest and the shortest of all the paths to truth, but it also gives the most satisfactory explanation of all the problems that arise for those who follow other paths.
So that was his commercial. You started with your commercial, and we're ending with Atmananda's commercial.
Yes, we are. That's it. Yeah, well, I agree with his commercial. I've tried the other paths, many of them, as many here have. And the direct path was the answer that I needed for the clarity and the certainty, and to end the seeking.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we did start with a commercial for anyone that came late. The Many Paths Oneself Conference starts on Friday. Join us if you would like to, and doesn't matter. You're not guilty if you don't. Have fun, and we'll be there. And thank you for joining with us today and for these book studies. And thank you, Jenny, for hosting this week, co-hosting and hosting, and being your awesome self.
You're welcome, Bill. It's been lovely being here with you, with
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Next week we have Susan. Susan is in the house. She'll be here next week. Thank you all. And we'll see you. Thank you, Amy. Was that your thumb up? Okay, good. All right. See you all next week. And if you're here, we'll see you the weekend. Bye, everyone. Thanks for